Hey everyone, Couch Investor back to another video for today, and in this video I want to talk about, I want to make the case that, maybe it's time for Jack Dorsey to hit the road. After everything that's gone on with Twitter, especially with the Twitter files, which we're going to talk about a bit in this video, because I'm still extremely surprised that nobody at Block, especially not the board of directors, have actually, thought about maybe kicking him out of the company because of the bad image that he brings. Now, you might love him because, he's all about Bitcoin, but do you really want him as the CEO of the company today, after everything that, was dug out of those files? Me personally, no, and I've been saying this for a long time, way before the Twitter files ever came out. And for those of you that will say, oh, you're just saying this because the stock price has come down. No, I've been saying this when the stock price was high as well. And for those that are asking, so why did you invest in Square in the first place? Well, I invested in Square in the first place a couple of years ago when Jack Dorsey was still a bit normal. He was not so obsessed with Bitcoin. He did not have that long beard. He was focused on making Square bigger. Today, that's clearly not the case. And it's not like we don't have other leaders in the company that can take his place and probably are already doing the job today. I believe he's just CEO on paper, but the CFO, maybe the two guys from Afterpay, are actually the ones leading the company forward. But for the sake of investors, for the sake of Wall Street, push him out. Let him do his Bitcoin thing, let him enjoy Africa and all the food and the dances and etc. on his own. Why should investors, why should a company like Block carry the burden of this guy? And so in this video, we'll go over the apologies that, Jack puts out on Twitter every single time something goes wrong. I apologize. He's the master apologist. Then we'll go over some tweets that actually show that he knew what was going on. A clip where he lied under oath. Cool. And then, all the rest. So sit back and relax, hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you have not. And if you want to support me on this channel, do check out the link down in the description and in the pinned comment to get the top 10 best stocks to buy now, or go to fool.com/couchinvestor. So tweet number one. He tweeted out a lot of things along the years, but this was in April 2022. So I've tried taking a break from Twitter recently, but I must say the company has always tried to do its best given the information it had. Every decision we made was ultimately my responsibility. You see the asterisks here? In the cases where we were wrong or went too far, we admitted it and worked to correct. Well, I don't think that's the truth, and when he was asked under oath whether or not Twitter were suppressing speech or basically, in other words, blacklisting people.
Mr. Dorsey, welcome. Thanks for being here. I want to read a few quotes about Twitter's practices, and I just want you to tell me if they're true or not. Social media is being rigged to censor conservatives. Is that true of Twitter?
No.
I don't know what Twitter is up to. It sure looks like to me that they're censoring people, and they ought to stop it. Are you censoring people?
No.
Twitter shadow banning prominent Republicans. It's bad. Is that true?
No.
We'll come back on that point in just a bit, but let's continue with the tweets here. November 2022, folks at Twitter past and present are strong and resilient. Yes, of course, when you can play God, of course you are strong and resilient. They will always find a way no matter how difficult the moment. Indeed. I realize many are angry with me. I own the responsibility for why everyone is in this situation. I grew the company size too quickly. I apologize for that. It has to be the cheapest apology I've ever seen in my life. So going back to restricting and making things visible. So Barry Weiss, like Matt Taibbi, came out with a huge threat about the Twitter files. So here in internal Slack messages, Twitter employees spoke of using technicalities to restrict the visibility of tweets and subjects. He is Yoel Roth, Twitter's then global head of trust and safety, in a direct message to a colleague in early 2021. So a lot of times SI has used technicality, spam enforcement as a way to solve a problem created by safety under enforcing their policies, which again isn't a problem per se, it depends who you're asking, but it keeps up from addressing the root cause of the issue, which is that our safety policies need some attention, which I'm going to bring up this clip right here.
Your platform restricts speech.
Our platform promotes speech unless people violate our rules.
And in a specific direction.
In any direction.
But I don't want to say his name. The guy who calls for death gets a suspension. The guy who insinuates death gets a permanent ban.
But Tim, you're misinterpreting what I'm saying, and I feel like you're doing it deliberately. It's not about one particular thing. It's about a pattern and practice of violating our rules.
And you have a pattern and practice of banning only one faction of people.
I don't agree with that.
Quillette recently published an article where they looked at 22 high-profile bannings from 2015 and found 21 of them were only on one side of the cultural debate.
But I don't look at the political spectrum of people when I'm looking at their tweets.
Right, you have a bias.
I don't know who they are.
You're biased, and you're targeting specific individuals because your rules support this perspective.
No.
This lady is basically the human version of a default auto-reply email. It's basically that. And obviously she lied throughout the podcast. Now, going back to Barry Weiss' tweets. So, point number 2, Twitter once had a mission to give everyone the power to create and share ideas and information instantly without barriers. Along the way, barriers nevertheless were erected. For example, Stanford Dr. J, I'm not going to butcher the last name, who argued that COVID lockdowns would harm children, Twitter secretly placed him on a trends blacklist, which prevented his tweets from trending. If we scroll down, we see the same thing happening here with Dan Bongino. Again, notification spike, search blacklist. I think if we scroll down even more, we get another account here, do not amplify. Remember that clip earlier? If not, let me play it back.
Social media is being rigged to censor conservatives. Is that true of Twitter?
No.
I don't know what Twitter is up to. It sure looks like to me that they're censoring people, and they ought to stop it. Are you censoring people?
No.
Twitter shadow banning prominent Republicans. It's bad. Is that true?
No.
So yes, as a shareholder, I still don't understand why he's still CEO of Block. But maybe that will change pretty soon. Now, after all of that, remember the clip I showed you with Joe Rogan and Tim Pool? And what that auto-reply lady said? Well, Twitter denied that it does such things. In 2018, Twitter, the head of legal policy and trust and head of product said we do not shadow ban. They added, and we certainly don't shadow ban based on political viewpoints or ideology. I don't know, if you go through all the Twitter files and all the examples, it's pretty clear which side gets, pushed out. And to show you that Jack was on board, another Slack message here from Yoel Roth. So one of the biggest areas I'd love research support on is non-removal policy interventions like disabling engagement and disamplification visibility filtering. The hypothesis underlying much of what we've implemented is that if exposure to, example, misinformation, depends who you're talking to, directly causes harm, we should use remediation that reduce exposure, and limiting the spread virality of content is a good way to do that by just reducing prevalence overall. We got Jack on board with implementing this for civic integrity in the near term. But we're going to need to make a more robust case to get this into our repertoire of policy remediations, especially for other policy domains, so I'd love research POV point of views on that. And if you thought things couldn't get any worse, apparently after January 6th, internal Slacks show Twitter executive getting a kick out of intensified relationship with federal agencies. Here's Trust and Safety head Yoel Roth, yet again, as you can see these messages here. As it happens, I'm a big believer in calendar transparency, but I reached a certain point where my meetings became very interesting to people and they weren't meeting names generic enough to cover. Anyway, let me know. Very boring business meeting that is definitely not about Trump. Wink. To that, he answers pretty much. Definitely not meeting with the FBI, I swear. LMAO. Continuing on meeting with the FBI and such, this post about the Hunter Biden laptop situation, which was obviously also suppressed, but they quickly corrected themselves weeks after. So this post about the Hunter Biden laptop situation shows that Rod not only met weekly with the FBI and DHS, but with the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. I'm not going to read through all of that, but I hope you get the gist of it. Some of these employees and the higher-ups were just playing God. And now last thing, and this happened a couple of days ago, we have Anne Collier here. 3 of us resigned from Twitter's Trust and Safety Council today. Lots of talks here, blah, 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 whatever is happening inside of Twitter. To what this account here answered, you all belong in jail because, well, Twitter refused to remove child porn because it didn't violate the terms of service or whatever. To what Elon replied, it is a crime that they refuse to take action on child exploitation for years. To what Jack answers, this is false. And if you do a quick Google search, you know that this isn't false at all. To that, Elon replies, no, it's not. When Ella Erling, who now runs Trust and Safety, joined Twitter earlier this year, almost no one was working on child safety. She raised this with Ned and Parag, but they rejected her staffing request. I made it a top priority immediately. And then, of course, Jack plays the clueless person that he is. I don't know what happened in past year, but to say we didn't take action for years isn't true. You can make all my emails public to verify. Company took away my access to email, or I would. Which I think the Babylon Bee summed up perfectly with this satire title right here. Jack Dorsey defiantly states he has never heard of Twitter, which probably defines the person. Now, again, I'll make my point, because all of this video is to say that I don't think that Jack Dorsey should be the CEO of Block anymore. And yes, it is time for him to hit the road. Now, to make this video a bit more about the finances, this is the state of Block today. It's down 60% year to date. Revenue-wise, it has been stagnating a little bit. Free cash flow has come down as well, return on equity as well. Gross profit margin has increased. Now, we've covered the last quarter. I liked it very much. Of course, we are coming down of the pandemic, so the Cash App segment, let's say, is taking a hit, but the seller side is obviously enjoying the reopening. Now, of course, it takes another hit because of all the macro environment, the challenges there, high inflation, etc. So these last 2 years for a company like Block is difficult to navigate, but in my opinion, they are still doing okay. There are still some things that I would like to see them grow faster or grow into. Let's see what happens, but enough is enough. Jack Dorsey, the door is there, go enjoy Bitcoin, but not on the shareholders account. Obviously, do share your thoughts down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this type of videos, leave it a thumbs up, subscribe if you have not, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye bye.